The wooden walls of the village hall in Charlestown, Jamaica, are lined with shadowy images, a tribute to the Maroons, Africans who escaped enslavement and built their own free communities deep in the island's hills. Surrounded by lush mountains, the settlement is quiet except for roosters crowing. Maroon elder and spiritual leader Gloria Mama G. Sims, her head wrapped and colorful dress flowing, greets neighbors warmly before entering the hall. Honored with the chieftain title of Ga Mung in Suriname, Mama G carries herself with regal presence as she recounts the Maroon story. It began on plantations where Africans, kidnapped from across West Africa, were shackled, branded, and sold like property. Enduring brutal conditions, they realized it was better to risk death than remain enslaved. So they fled, fought, and founded independent settlements. Today, 5 main Maroon communities survive in Jamaica: Agumpong, Charlestown, Moortown, Scots Hall, and Flagstaff. Each has several hundred residents preserving ancestral customs, unique governance systems, herbal medicine, music, and spiritual cleansing rituals. Similar Maroon groups endure in Suriname, Brazil, and Colombia. Their councils remain effective at conflict resolution, with crime rates typically lower than elsewhere in Jamaica. They also resist paying land taxes, citing treaties signed with Britain in the 1730s. Mama G has dedicated her life to safeguarding Maroon traditions and demanding justice. She describes Jamaica's 1838 abolition of slavery as empty words on blank paper, benefiting oppressors more than the oppressed and leaving descendants trapped in systemic poverty. To her, true emancipation means restoration of what was taken. When Europeans first came to Africa, they saw us in our glory. We walked on gold. Our crowns were made from our resources. They destroyed our kingdoms to build theirs, she explains. Enslavement, she adds, was more than free labor, it was domination. Africans were dehumanized for their dark skin, broad noses, and thick lips. They wanted to humiliate us, a chosen people, because of jealousy and greed. For Mama G, restoration is reparation. The damage of slavery and racism cannot be swept aside. They blocked us from everything and tied our hands, yet still expect us to be strong and fit into society. Vivian Crawford, a Maroon on Jamaica's National Council on Reparations, agrees. He notes that the plight of enslaved Africans is rarely weighed equally against other genocides. The Maroon struggle, however, shows resilience. People from different African nations overcame language and cultural barriers to fight armed colonizers and build structured communities. Our ancestors refused subjugation. My role is to carry that baton to the finish line. The journey is not complete. Globally, calls for reparations are gaining momentum. Across the Caribbean and Africa, leaders are demanding the return of artifacts and wealth taken by Britain. In July, Caribbean leaders petitioned King Charles to seek legal advice from the Privy Council on whether the forced transport of Africans was a crime against humanity, and if Britain owes reparations to Jamaica. Mama G views this as divine intervention. They talk of human rights, but when dealing with us, justice disappears. Our cry has been long, but it grows louder because our ancestors and Almighty God intervene for justice to come. At the Charlestown Hall, she pauses to greet drummer and youth leader Oniel Green, Mustafa Reds, 42, and Samantha Douglas, 18, part of the new generation carrying Maroon heritage forward. Music, rituals, and teaching youth remain central. Mama G insists that preserving culture is not only about identity, it's also about survival. Without culture, people lose identity and roots, she warns, invoking Marcus Garvey's words. A people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. For the Maroons, their fight is not just about memory, but about justice, restoration, and ensuring future generations never forget the price of freedom.